everyone, and welcome back to Desert Chunk, my semi-extreme one-chunk Iron Man who started in Palnivnic and is now working his way through Narda. In the last episode, we killed a bunch of bandits, got a little bit of money, killed some more bandits, did a bunch of janky napkin math, killed even more bandits, crossed off a bunch of tasks, kept on killing bandits, and then spent all of our money on a rune chain body. So we are basically starting from scratch in terms of our GP, and boy do we have quite the grind ahead of us. Let me explain. 2 episodes ago, in episode 4, my comeback episode, I finally rolled a chunk that I had been wanting since I started rolling chunks. Narda, all because I was desperate for a bank and Narda had the closest one on offer. However, I always knew that this was going to be a double-edged sword. You see, while Narda was also appealing to an account with extremely limited access to weapons and armor, due to the rune armor and other miscellaneous pieces sold by Sedu, those rune items in particular were going to come at a big cost, and well, I also don't have the best access to money. What I do have are these level 57 bandits, who drop little bits of GP, as well as a bunch of random things that don't really sell for much value at the Palnivnic General Store, which, while it is one of those magical stores with increased buying prices, still isn't much of a shining beacon of hope when the most valuable drops I can sell to it are law runes at 132 coins each. The thing is, I don't really want to sell my law runes, or any of my runes for that matter, but desperate times call for desperate measures, so I have been reluctantly selling portions of my Chaos and Death runes to speed things up. And that was the whole entire premise of episode 5. I spent the vast majority of it killing bandits and doing calculations to figure out what sort of a grind I was looking at and how many resources I was willing to let go of to make it more manageable. Now, I left off the last episode with 1,000 bandits in my loot tracker and determined that, of that loot, I would be selling the iron battle axes, steel axes, coal, death runes, and 200 of my chaos runes every 1,000 kills in order to make my fortune. In addition to the coins, I appraised what I had in the loot tracker to be worth 23,631 GP, and keep in mind that this is 1,000 kills we're talking about, so we're not exactly flexing on the local crime bosses. Now, I have to make a correction here because that number is not completely accurate. I said in the last episode that steel axes sell to the Palnivnic General Store for 120 GP each, but this is incorrect. 120 GP is their high elk value, and they actually sell for 110 GP at the store, as you can see from the screenshot. So that's totally my mistake, I just wasn't paying enough attention. The good news is that this doesn't actually materially impact my overall calculations. The 6 steel axes included in the original figure were initially evaluated to be worth 720 GP, but are actually worth 660 GP, so our new grand total is 23,571, not too far off. Using the initial calculations of the loot gained from those first 1,000 bandits, I extrapolated that in order to earn another 110k GP, which is the amount that I'll need to finish buying everything in my chunk, it would take me approximately 4,600 more bandits to achieve. And that estimation has not changed with the new total, it's still going to be around 4,600 bandits. The thing is, the first 1,000 took about 42 hours, so we're looking at potentially over 190 more hours to complete the chunk. One saving grace is that I did those first 1,000 kills without this rune chain body, which significantly reduces my damage taken, and given that wines are both my cheapest and highest healing food source by far, less damage means less healing, and less healing means less time waiting for my attack stat to recover from using the wines before I can go on another trip. And any random events that give coins or sellable loot are obviously going to help as well. Just imagine those being like hours coming off of the clock and dozens of bandits we don't need to kill. Another silver lining is the fact that we will be getting stronger as we go through this grind, so it should gradually speed up the further along we get. If we do make it to 4,000 kills, that'll be an extra 800,000 melee stat XP. I'm not going to send it all on strength, and I'll explain why later when it becomes relevant, but I'm gonna stop rambling for now and get locked in on this grind. Before I do that though, there is just one last order of business that I would like to take care of first, and that is to sell back this teasing stick, which if you saw in the last episode, I meant to sell it off, but I tried to sell it back and the shop was understocked at the time, so I couldn't, but I didn't realize that, so I'm going to take it out now and finally actually resell it to get a little bit of our money back. It's not going to be much, it's like 30 something coins. Also, I think I mentioned this noose wand and how it was like, oh, it's only 4 coins, and and I'm only going to get 2 back, so I might as well keep it, but I don't really want to keep it. I don't know what it's going to be useful for. 2 coins is 2 coins. Also, I have this pie dish here, which I don't think came from the general store here in Narda, but I don't think I need it anyway, so if it sells for something in the Paul Nuvnich general store, we're going to do that too, so let's just get a little bit of money back here. So let's sell these back. The rest of it will sell off in Paul Nuvnich, and let's get back to this bandit grind. So, the rune chain body is amazing. I got 24 kills in one trip. I even had to run back to Paul Nuvnich mid-trip just to fill up my water skins because they ran out, and I just ran straight back. Like, I didn't wait for my stats to recover, I didn't buy extra wines. The only recovery that I gained was the time that it took me to run from the bandits back to Paul Nuvnich and back to the bandits. Like, it was amazing. 24 kills in a single trip. I mean, just an episode ago, my best trip was like a dozen kills, and that's just amazing to me. I don't want to keep going on and on about this, but I got 34 kills in my next trip, and I still had 2 wines remaining, so this rune armor is really actually doing quite well. More importantly, though, there's level 23 woodcutting. Another Evil Bob fishing random down, and there is a level 24 fishing. And here is 71 strength. We are 300 bandit kills in, and it only took us 7 hours, which is roughly 43 kills per hour. For context, the 500 kills we did before this, so from 500 to 1000, took 19 hours, which was only about 26 kills per hour. And this is purely from our defensive upgrades with the rune chain body, mind you. We haven't actually increased our DPS in quite some time, but I'll get into that in about 400 or so more kills. 24 woodcutting coming in, and a level 25 woodcutting. And here is level 72 strength, 415 bandit kills later, as it turns out. And this is the point at which I'm going to stop training strength, as I said, and give you the explanation as to why. My max hit has been at 11 for the past few levels, and I won't be gaining another one with this setup until level 77, which means that I'm not going to see any DPS increases until then. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video that it could take us as much as 4,600 more bandit kills from our initial 1000 to reach our goals, but also that, if we get lucky with random events, that number could go down significantly, hence why I went with 4,000 kills as an estimate. At level 72, we are just over 576,000 XP away from 77 strength, which equates to about 2,880 bandits. On top of the 715 we've already killed so far, that would be 3,595 bandits, which means that our next DPS boost via strength training would come almost 90% of the way through the entire grind. Even if we keep to the 4,600 kills projected from just the bandit drops alone, we're still stuck with no increases to DPS for the vast majority of the grind, about 78% of it. And that's why I'm stopping at 72 strength, because this is the level at which we maintain our max hit of 11 on the accurate attack style. And not only do we get an invisible accuracy boost, increasing our DPS right off the bat, but in this case, every single attack level we gain further increases our accuracy and thus our DPS. And we'll be getting a lot more attack levels than strength levels out of this remaining pool of XP. I know that these buffs will be counteracted somewhat by the effects of the wines, but it'll still be better than staying on the aggressive style and just losing attack anyway, but with no mitigation or compensation. I'm really trying to make these kills faster and more efficient to get to our goals sooner, and this is currently the best way that I can do that, to the best of my knowledge. With all of that said, I'm still going to kill a few more bandits on the aggressive attack style because we're really close to 900k XP in a single skill, and I really want to hit that milestone. So there we go, 900k strength XP. Wow, amazing. Alright, so we just finished a Quizmaster random, and I have the choice between 1,000 coins or a mystery box. I know that I could get something really cool from the mystery box if I hit the rare drop table, but I could also, like, get a cabbage, and this would just be a useless event. So I think I'm just gonna take the 1,000 coins because that's like, I don't know, 150 or so bandits that I don't have to kill, at least in terms of the coin drops. So yeah, I'm gonna take that. And here's level 68 hit points coming in. I always love to see those levels. And here's 47 prayer. Well, this is disappointing. I got a really bad maze random. I thought I was making good progress to the end, but it told me I was going the wrong way, and I got really panicky and I backed up beyond where I probably should have needed to. I got some runes from it, so that's cool. I guess that's some extra stuff to sell off, but like, yeah, could have been a lot better. I even like hopped worlds to try to get a different spawn point because I just could not figure out my way back through the maze, other than the way that I had already gone, but yeah. That sucks. That sucks so bad. That's so painful. I was waiting for that maze random for so long, and then I just squandered it. I guess on the bright side, here's a level that we haven't seen in a while. There is level 66 attack. And here we are at 1,000 kills this episode, 2,000 since we rolled Narda. We're about 22 hours in since we started this grind, I believe. And before I do any sort of comparison, I need to go sell off all the Death and Chaos runes I've been stocking up, so I'll bring you back in when that's done. Alright, and our spoils of war have amounted to 25,435 GP in the inventory now. It hurts to see all those runes go, but this is what I have to do if I want to get out of this chunk in under 200 hours. In any case, let's take a look at our new custom graphic in order to see how we're doing on this leg of the grind. Just to explain how it works, we have the loot from the first 1,000 kills on the left and the loot from the next 1,000 kills on the right. I just did a bit of basic subtraction to figure out the difference. The bigger symbols next to each item indicate whether we have more, less, or exactly how many we'd expect based on each drop rate. The small mathematical symbols in the middle correspond to whether we are doing better, worse, or the same for each indicated item between the two grinds. The cosmic runes definitely evened themselves out this time around, looking quite abysmal over there on the right. I guess they all got converted into nature runes, but cosmics are still the most abundant of the 1 in 64 runes in my inventory, and we've had random events helping out the law runes, which are still the lowest amount, which just goes to show you how dry I went for them in the 1,422 kills before all of this, and how spooned I got for the cosmics. Again, I'm not selling any of these, it's just interesting to see how they fluctuate from grind to grind. And while the law and nature runes made a big comeback in the latter 1,000 kills, the same cannot be said of the chaos and death runes. We went down in both of them, and we are now dry for chaos runes for the first time since we started killing these bandits. I think overall we are still up on them, but in this section of 2,000 kills we are now dry, which is concerning. And even more concerning is the fact that we went down in every single item that we're using for money, except for the steel axes, which stayed the same, but we're still dry on them across both halves of this grind. In fact, we are down in drops for over half of the items, 11 out of 21, which has now made us dry for several of them. We did improve on the raw GP, but we're also still a little behind where we should be overall. Moving on from that, let's compare the monetary gains of the relevant drops between the two grinds. Just bear in mind that the chaos runes in this case are a constant factor because I'm only selling off 200 of them every 1,000 kills, even though I'm getting more than that. Also keep in mind that, unlike with everything else, I'm selling off these chaos runes 5 at a time due to their volume, which averages out to 47 GP per rune. We already recalculated our total value of the first 1,000 kills from the previous episode to be worth 23,571 GP, and doing the same calculations here for the 1,000 kills this episode gives us a total of 23,122 GP, which is not surprising considering that we did worse with almost every drop. But we are still ahead of that value due to the random events we received, and quite honestly, I feel like we didn't get very lucky with those, so it looks like there's room to improve in both cases. Now, I said in the last episode that I wasn't smart enough to figure out how many bandit kills I would need to reach my goals by factoring in the drop rates of multiple items together, and that's still somewhat true, but these 1,000 kill comparisons and all my calculations of actual versus expected drops made me realize that I could just use the expected drop rates of the items I'm selling combined with the actual values of GP that they sell for in order to construct a more accurate theoretical average over 1,000 kills. And because this is a theoretical average, I decided not to do any sort of rounding until I came to the valuation of each individual drop per 1,000 kills. The reason that I've been flooring the decimals when comparing actual versus expected drops beforehand is because, well, you can't get 9/10 of a drop. I'll briefly throw that math up on the screen, and again, you can pause to take a deeper look if you'd like. Now, what you may notice, and may have already noticed about the first graphic, is that this actually gives me a way to calculate an expected value for raw GP as well, which is something else I've had difficulty figuring out for quite a while. But I have to give another shout out to my friend Don Yagamoth, the man, the myth, and the legend behind the Chunk Tyler series, because he actually left a comment on my previous video explaining how to figure out the expected amount of GP per kill using just the given rates of each coin drop. His math worked out to about 6.375 GP per kill on average, which, if you multiply that by 1,000, is pretty much the exact same as my 1,000 kill calculation of 6,374 GP. I like his method a lot better, and I'll definitely keep it in mind if I do any similar drop rate calculations in the future, but let's go back and quickly compare the theoretical values I calculated to the actual amount of GP made over each of these 1,000 kill segments. And you can see that we're honestly not too far off. Our recalculated 23,571 figure from the first 1,000 kills is only 15 GP shy of the theoretical average, and the math for the incorrect 120 GP steel axe calculations would only be 34 GP off. So my janky napkin math ended up being a lot closer to an accurate estimation than I previously thought. Anyway, I'm probably not going to do another big analysis like this until we hit our end goal, but I will, of course, bring you in every 1,000 kills just briefly to see how we're doing. And here's 26 woodcutting, but more importantly, total level 400. Pretty decent milestone considering the lack of skills that we have to train currently. Also, it feels pretty nice to get a grats from Source Chunk in the clan chat here, just had a show that. Proud moment, you know. Okay, so I have this lamp here, and before I use it, I think it's time for a confession. As you can see from my experience, I have been putting my last bunch of lamps into Hunter behind the scenes, and this lamp, if I use it, will grant me my first Hunter level on this account. I explained my reasoning behind this in the last video, but you guys didn't see that because the explanation turned into a rambling, incoherent mess, so I cut all mentions of it out and decided to save it for this video. Basically, I want to start lamping Hunter because, just 2 chunks away from my unlocked area, I might soon have access to this hunting spot with golden warblers, which can be caught at level 5 Hunter. And if you'll remember, our current chunk, Narda, comes with a Hunter shop that sells bird snares, which, assuming that I can get to level 5, means I can catch golden warblers until my heart is content. As I've complained about on multiple occasions, I don't have very many skills to train in my chunks, and having one more that, for the time being, isn't going to necessitate any major grinds seems like a great addition. It also gives me early access to a skill that otherwise might be months or even years away from coming to this account. The only level 1 hunting creatures are miles away, and I know that forestry can sometimes spawn special events that give Hunter XP, but I'm also quite a ways away from that too. The conflict I'm having is that this desire to unlock Hunter goes against the sentiments that I've expressed in previous videos about wanting to stick purely to the tasks, items, and training methods available in my current chunks. But I could also just as easily say, like with getting uncut gems from random events, that lamps are just bonus content and I don't have to abide by the levels they give me. And I'm definitely still going to stick to that logic as far as items are concerned, by the way. Molly can try to woo me with all the uncut diamonds she wants, but those are never going to unlock any new chunk tasks that I wouldn't naturally have. But I was having trouble applying that same logic to lamping skills when the whole entire point of me leveling up my skills is to be able to actively use them for training or other benefits. So what I eventually decided upon was this. I don't have control over what items I get from random events, so like I keep saying, they're never going to unlock any additional chunk tasks. However, I do have almost complete control over which skills I decide to put lamps on, except for the ones that are walled off behind quests, and thus I am going to count lamped skills towards my chunk goals. If I lamp to a level that generates a task, I have to do it, but I could also simply just choose not to lamp that high. Also, in case anyone is worried about having to see yet another 1 chunk Puro grind in the future, I do not have that enabled in my rule set, and I also am not counting Wandering Implings as chunk tasks either. I may still try to catch them for some extraneous upgrades to my armor and weapons, but like with the random events, those are also going to count as bonus items. Plenty of other one-chunkers have exceptions within exceptions within other exceptions within their rules. The thing I've come to realize after watching so much one-chunk content over the years and then doing the challenge myself is that there are simply a lot of gray areas that all of the challenge guidelines and map settings just can't account for. So I don't think I'm making that drastic of a change or betraying my original intentions for this account by making that decision. If anything, I'm mainly trying to avoid having to manually add tasks to my chunk map. I kind of want the map to just do all the work for me in that regard, but I'm pretty sure that there is a way to just type in my current skill levels and the map will be able to calculate any additional tasks from there, so it should be all good. Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys some further clarification on my rule set, and hopefully this will be the last one for a while. Oh, and by the way, here is level 2 Hunter. And here is level 67 attack along with level 84 combat. Okay guys, we have another pinball random. Will we maintain our crown as the best pinball player OSRS? Let's see. Definitely still the best. We are fully on top of the world here. In all seriousness, I wanted to see what we got, and 5 emeralds, not too bad. The cut gems definitely sell for more at the general store than the non-cut gems, so 300 each for these. Those are definitely getting sold off, and that will add a nice chunk of change to our cash stack here. I mean, it's a little less than 300, but you know what I mean. And this Evil Bob random gets us to level 25 fishing. Also, I'm just going to bank almost everything that I have on me right now. It's been cool to see the numbers go up over time with my rune stacks and everything, but like, I'm starting to realize that this is my entire fortune that I'm just carrying with me, and I'm getting a little bit paranoid about what would happen if I just lost it all and how far back that would set my progress. So in the bank it all goes. I'll probably pull out some cash just to have on me to buy things. Also, I didn't deposit that. I think this was just a holdover habit from the dark times before I had a bank, but now that I have one, I should probably actually use it. 68 attack coming in. And there's 27 woodcutting. Well, I messed up the recording, but we just got a lamp from a Freaky Forester random event, and that gave us level 3 Hunter. Apologies for that, but there it is. And here's level 28 woodcutting. And here is kill number 2000 this episode. 3000 since rolling Narda, as it shows on the tracker. 20 coins is a drop, not too bad. We're sitting at 314 hours on the account, so 21 hours from the last update, about the same amount of time as the first 1000 kills. A little less, I think an hour less, so we did speed up a little bit. That's good. Anyway, I'm gonna go sell off all my runes, and then I'll bring you back in for some quick monetary analysis. Alright, and we're back. Here's what the cash stack is looking like, just over 48,000 GP. The numbers are in, and I'm going to show you how much we made from our 6 money-making drops, but be warned, friends, it's not looking good. Adding up all of our loot, we earned a total of 21,409 GP, which is about 1,700 less than what we got in our previous 1,000 kills, and 2,177 GP below our theoretical average. So what happened here? Well, despite absolutely crushing it on coin drops this time around, we went almost double the drop rate for death runes, which means that we only have about half the amount of GP we should have from them. We also got 1 fewer steel axe this time around, and stayed the same for iron battle axes, but we're still worse than the drop rate for them anyway. We did get 1 more coal than last time, which is just 1 better than the drop rate, and an extra 24 GP, so it's not really a redeeming factor here. We actually only went up in 7 out of 21 drops from what we had last time. A whole 2/3 either stayed the same or got worse, and I think only 1 stayed the same. And we are now dry or even drier for about half of those, so I'm really hoping that this is not a downward trend, but it just seems to keep getting worse. And we have a big level coming in. There's level 70 attack. Huge milestone, the second skill over the level 70 threshold on this account. Okay, so I ran some numbers on the DPS calculator, and I think that I am going to pivot from an attack-based strategy to a defense-based strategy. I set up 3 different loadouts, with the only difference being my combat style. From left to right, these are accurate, defensive, and aggressive. And what you'll notice is that the defensive and aggressive time to kill numbers are the same, 32 seconds, which again is because of the fact that my next max hit is several strength levels away. And then accurate beats them both out just slightly at 31.6. But if we scroll down to the damage taken table, there you'll see that the defensive style is showing the least damage taken per kill due to the invisible defense buff outweighing the DPS benefits of the other styles. It's really apparent based on the progress that I've made in this episode that my biggest increase in bandit kill efficiency has been the result of my defensive upgrades. The rune chain body has been an absolute godsend for this grind. And pretty soon, we'll be getting yet another upgrade in the form of the rune leg armor, which is going to make me even tankier, enable me to heal even less, and last even longer on each of these bandit trips. So, as you have been seeing, I'm starting to train my defense now. I don't know how far along we'll get before the end of the grind, but it would be pretty cool to see base 70s in all my melee stats. And Lumbridge is closer than I'd like to think about at this point, so I feel like I really shouldn't be letting this skill trail too far behind the others. Alright, so I'm only 250 kills into the next 1,000, but as you can see, I already have my entire cash stack and a stack of 200 chaos runes on me right now. And once I sell off these chaos runes to the Paul Nimni's general store, I'll have just enough GP to be able to buy the first rune leg armor piece from Sedu. Almost. I'll need to sell off an inventory of buckets to cross the finish line, but that shouldn't take too long. And since I'm selling them now, that means I don't have to sell them later. My initial projections suggested that I'd be able to do this from the bandit drops alone at about 2,500 kills, so we're decently ahead of schedule, which means that we're doing alright with the random events. I was actually hoping to have been able to do this at 2,000 kills though, and we might have been able to if we hadn't gotten absolutely screwed on death runes last time around. But oh well, we can still manage it now, and we're still shaving off quite a bit of time. So, after an epic struggle against potential bots and or gold farmers, we have our cash stack, we have Sedu right here, and I've actually had a change of heart. I'm looking around at all these NPCs wearing skirt-like garments, including Sedu himself, and I think, just for story reasons, I actually want to be leaving this chunk with the rune plate skirt instead, just to show my character adapting to the desert vibes. I may update the storyline in the next episode, and I'm obviously not going to include every single thing that I had to go through in my character's journey, so there's probably only going to be one set of armor bought in the story, and I want that to be the plate skirt. So there we go, we have obtained the rune plate legs, we can cross off 2 more tasks, and now we just need 49.2k to complete the chunk. There's 66 defense, and there's 29 woodcutting. And from this lamp, we will get level 4 Hunter. And this is one of the last, if not perhaps the last time we'll get to see this level during this grind. Here is level 48 Prayer. And there's level 67 defense coming in. And here we have a very big level 70 hit points coming in. And here's another level, there's 68 defense. And this lamp should be the last we need to get us to level 5 Hunter. We can now trap golden warblers if we could get to them, which we're only a few chunks away from doing. And so that's probably where I'm going to leave the skill, and I guess I'll just go back to lamping agility until we hit level 19, and then I'll figure it out from there. Alright, and this will be kill number 3,000 in this episode, 4,000 total since rolling Narda, and surprisingly, this only took 20 hours from the previous milestone, which is absolutely wild to me because the individual kills themselves felt slower since switching to defense, and I also feel like I've done quite a bit of monologuing and time wasting in this segment as well, so, I mean, that's totally awesome. We've been knocking off an hour from each leg of this grind. I just don't know how to explain this one, considering that I was questioning my own logic the whole way through. Anyway, I have some death runes to sell off, don't need to worry about the chaos runes because we already did that earlier, and then I'll bring you guys back in for another quick comparison segment. And here we are with just over 16k in our inventory, obviously a lot less than what our 1,000 kill total is going to be, because we sacrificed the 2,000 chaos runes earlier to get the rune plate legs, so just bear that in mind. But with the 9,400 from the chaos runes added in, this run of 1,000 kills has earned us our second highest total of 23,524 GP. And it's really kind of sad because had we gotten just a little bit luckier, we might have actually beaten the mathematical theoretical average for the first time, which is something that I would like to do at least once. I just want to see my luck be better than average where it actually matters. And we were in a really good position to do it this time. We got more of both the iron battle axes and steel axes than expected, went right on drop rate for death runes, only fell 60 GP short in raw coin drops, which wouldn't even have been enough to put us over the edge anyway. In fact, the real disappointment this time around was coal, which is funny to say because it only gives us an extra 744 GP on drop rate, but when everything else is so close to the theoretical average, I guess it makes a difference not getting 7 of the coal that we should have gotten. Anyway, it's on to the next 1,000 kills, I guess. Unfortunately, even with some fortuitous random events factored in, it doesn't look like we'll be able to reach our end goals in the next 1,000 kills, unless I'm willing to sacrifice some extra chaos and death runes to get there. But we'll see how I feel when I finally cross that threshold in about 20 in-game hours from now, given how the rest of the grind is gone. I feel like it's going to be a long 20 hours. And here's level 30 woodcutting, another nice round number. Well, we can use adamant axes now, if we had one, which we don't, but I'll take the level anyway. And we have, for the third time, another big level 70 milestone coming in. There is level 70 defense. Pretty crazy to think that we've gotten 3 of them in this one singular episode. And here is level 71 hit points. Definitely going to be the last hit points level for the rest of this grind. We are very close to our next milestone, and even if we went all the way up to the 4,600 projected kill count, there's no way that we would get to our next level in this particular stat. But it is super cool to see that we now have base 70s, and we have had base 70s for a little while, in all of our melee combat skills and hit points. That's awesome. I'm very happy with the progress that we've been making this episode. And here is finally 4,000 bandit kills this episode. We've got some death runes. That's good to see because I have a feeling that we didn't get as many as we should this time around. Again, this leg of the grind only took us 19 hours, even though I didn't even touch the accurate style for the whole duration of it, so I must have just been a lot more efficient this time, and I felt like I was pretty locked in and like I was managing my distractions a little bit better. We are now sitting at 5,000 kills since rolling Narda. We're about 600 off from what I projected we would need to finish the chunk with average RNG and no help from random events. But we did get a little bit of help, so you know the drill. I'm going to go sell off my runes and then we'll take a look at the cash stack. So here we are with our cash stack of just over 40k GP, almost exactly 24k up from where we left off, and that figure is about 97% the result of our bandit drops in this segment, which added up to 23,308 GP. Nothing too special. In fact, it's our third lowest value that we've had so far. And I'm surprised it's even that high, considering that we went dry on 3 out of 5 of our non-static drops. The coins, the death runes, and the iron battle axes. We got 2 extra coal this time, but like, who cares? They're only 24 GP each. Honestly, the saving graces of this segment were the steel axes of all things. We got more than double the expected amount, 17 out of 7. And can we just talk about this pitiful 708 bonus GP differential for a minute? Because the random events that we got in this segment were absolutely abysmal. You might see these Giles and Rick Turpentines and think that we must have gotten a little bit of cash from them, but no, they just kept giving me stuff like low-tier uncut gems, which aren't all that great to sell, and I kid you not, probably half of the things they gave me were spinach rolls. Absolutely useless. And then of course you see the Drunken Dwarf and the Frog and Dr. Jekyll and Strange Plants, and we did get a good bunch of XP randoms, which of course got us to our level 5 hunter, but the rest of it just, I mean, I don't know what to do with this. You'll also probably notice a Quizmaster in there. And yes, I did take the 1,000 coins. The thing is, wines are still an expense, even if just a small one. I haven't talked about how wines affect our profits yet, because they're only 1 GP each, and I haven't bothered to keep track of how many I'm using, but as you can see, they clearly add up over time, and several hundred GP coming out every 1,000 kills becomes a lot more apparent when the RNG gods decide that the couple thousand extra coins we got in each of the other segments was just a bit too merciful, I guess. I think the unfortunate reality is that we're just not getting all that lucky where we need to on this grind. Sound familiar? And as we take a look at our actual versus expected drops over the whole 5,000 kill run since we've been in Narda, you can see that our luck continues to be a bit of a mixed bag here. We are doing better than expected for 11 out of 21 drops, which is more than half of them, and we're right on drop rate for the nature runes, but that leaves 9 items that we've gone dry for. And I don't know, that feels like kind of a lot. The only items in the green that I'm particularly happy about are the Chaos Runes and the Steel Bars. Notable favorites like the Harlanders are barely in that category anymore, Guams have fallen off hard, and I don't even want to talk about the Renars. We were doing pretty well for them when we couldn't keep them, and now we're horrendously dry. I mean, it's cool to see that the Terramins are still doing well, and that the Steel Axes made up a lot of ground in the last 1,000 kills, but it feels like a bit of a slap in the face that we're almost absurdly moist for 5 out of our 6 rarest items, which are all mid to high level herbs that are light years, and probably actual years away from being useful. It's still painfully funny to me how few grimy lantidimes we have in comparison to the grimy dwarf weeds, but I do really kind of hate the fact that we're dry or only just on drop rate for most of the runes, especially the death runes, because that was part of our money-making plan, but I would have loved to have had a bigger stockpile of the others just in general because of how useful they are. At the end of the day, I'm not smart enough to figure out if all of our combined luck is better or worse than average, but I feel like it leaves a little to be desired. If nothing else, I think everything I've been through during this grind affirms my claim from episode 1 that I have the RNG of a clown. But we are still roughly 9,000 GP away from hitting our 49.2k goal, so where do we go from here? Well, let me just tell you, it's a good thing that we eventually went well above our expected number of Chaos Runes because I really don't want to spend any more time killing bandits. I've had my fill. Rolling some new chunks and hopefully getting something different to do would be a really nice change for me right now. It would also have been nice to have gotten a few more random events to help chip away at that remainder, but roughly 190 more Chaos Runes should get us there, maybe with the help of a few more water buckets. As long as we're still keeping above 1,000, I'm okay with that very arbitrarily decided amount, I guess. So I'm just going to go off and sacrifice them, and I'll see you after even more world hopping purgatory. Alright, and we have just over 49.2k. This should hopefully be enough to finish our remaining chunk tasks. Now, we have to do this in a very careful order of events, I think. So I think if I sell the rune plate legs here, then I take this money over to the hunter shop, and let's buy this magic imp box pack for 72,000 coins. There we go, that feels so good to be able to buy that and see all of that money just go to waste. Okay, maybe that part's not so great, but you know, the fact that we can do it, that's the good thing here. Sells back for 42k as we expected, so let's go and do that. Run back to Sedu, trade Sedu, and if we look here at this rune plate skirt, it currently costs 60,800 GP, and hey look, we have just enough here, so let's buy. This is the last item that we need. Please don't misclick on it. There we go, there's one rune plate skirt bought. And with that, we can cross off the final 2 tasks in this chunk, and Narda is complete. Oh, how great it feels to be free at last of that bandit grind. 5,000 bandit kills, again, as you can see in the tracker there. We are sitting at 354 hours of time played on the account right now, and we started off this second half of the Narda grind at 271 hours, which means that it only took 83 hours to kill the 4,000 bandits in this specific episode. And if there's any one thing I can show you to illustrate just how inefficient it was to drink those wines as often as I was and lose my attack as frequently as I was, it would be this, exactly this, because the first 1,000 kills that we got after rolling Narda, the ones that I did without the rune chain body, took me 42 hours. 42 hours for 1,000 kills, and we got 4 times that amount in this episode without even doubling the amount of time played, and that was purely due to the fact that our upgraded defenses were making the trips much longer and the wines much less impactful. Anyway, if we take those 42 hours from the previous episode and add it onto the 83 hours here, I guess that means about 125 hours were spent in Narda finishing the chunk as a whole. And we also made quite a lot of progress with our skills. We started this episode at 390 total level, and we gained 33 levels. We have our beautiful base 70s in melee and hit points, a good bunch of woodcutting levels, and we got 5 hunter all in this episode, episode. That's really cool. I'm hoping very much that we roll upwards a little bit and into this hunting area. I would love to have that skill unlocked early, as I said. But speaking of unlocking skills, I think it's time to go into the chunk picker and try to figure out how to add these extraneous skills to my current chunk map. Alright, so here is the map. You can see that we have all of the tasks checked off. 50 days since the last roll, definitely not as bad as the previous record. And I believe if I go to this activity info here, I can manually set my levels for agility, fishing, and hunter. That's it. Let me see, I think it's this. Current hunter level 5, and then I think I saved the level, and currently we only have 17 agility, I believe, and then 25 fishing. It's a good thing that I went back in game and checked because I was about to say level 23. So that should be it. We have the option to calculate tasks, but I don't think that that is going to change anything, what we just added, so let's do it. And of course, nothing changes, but from now going forward, those levels will be included in whatever we have for our future chunk rolls. But actually, I lied. There is one more thing that I'd like to do before I roll, and that is to update my challenge rules again. I know, I said that I was going to try not to do that again for a long while, but this is no mere clarification, and it certainly isn't a subtraction either. No, I am adding to my rule set, making it even harder, making it worthy, in my mind, of being called a semi-extreme one-chunk Iron Man. You see, one of the things that I've always felt was a little bit cheap when it came to my rules was the fact that I set my drop task threshold to items with a rate better than 1 in 513. Tasks like getting a long bone and a curved bone just never really appealed to me as someone who used to count Slayer among my least favorite skills because I just couldn't stand killing the same monsters over and over and over again. But here I am, sitting at 5,000 bandit kills in my tracker, with an additional 1,426 between my initial bandit drop table grind and the few kills I got over on my side machine a while back. I've logged over 3,600 snakes and almost 10,000 jackals. I went more than 3 times dry for a 1 in 390.1 drop, and it took me months to finally get it. I came back after a massive drought of motivation and lived to tell the tale. I feel like I can take on anything. Well, within reason, of course. I'm not a masochist. And look, I'm already only making myself do one completion of a boss or raid if that's all I feel like I have the ability to do. And I'm not doing combat tasks either, so I need to up the ante with my combat grinds. I want to take my place amidst my fellow one-chunkers as a future survivor of the long and curved bone grinds. So I am going to delve back into my rules and uncap the drop rate threshold for regular monster drops. And yes, I do know that this means opening myself up to even more potentially brutal grinds, like the Draconic Visage and the Smoldering Stone, but again, I want to feel like I can stand shoulder to shoulder with my fellow semi-extreme chunkmen. I probably will end up reverting this change to the original threshold if I decide to do the Wilderness as a sort of series epilogue, and that's a big if because it's still very much up in the air at this point, but for the rest of the regular series, I am locking in this change. Additionally, I'm also going to enable untracked uniques like the gardening boots, and also mountable items like the big swordfish to count for tasks as well. Again, this shouldn't have changed anything that I've done thus far in my current chunks, so let's just calculate the tasks again to see if anything new pops up. No, okay, well, let's just roll. Anything that gets me closer to those golden warblers to make my lamping of Hunter worthwhile is desirable. Doesn't look like we're going to get that. The Runes of Uluk, that is in fact in the opposite direction, but take me there. Let's see what we have. It doesn't look like we have any current chunk tasks, but we'll hop back in game just to see what we have unlocked. Alright, so here is the chunk just to the south of Narda. Let us unlock it. There we go, nice and in color. Let's step across into our new chunk. And I think that this is probably going to be a dead end chunk because I don't think we can actually get up here and access any of the interesting areas. And because of that, I also don't think that we can actually go anywhere. I don't think we can access the chunk to the south of this. So we'll just walk down as far south as we can, and I think this is going to be about it. We can just about see the agility pyramid from here, which would be cool to have unlocked for when we do eventually decide to unlock agility in the future. We have a couple more Caridian cacti if we want to train our wood cutting on them for whatever reason, 3 to be precise. But I am just going to go back into the chunk picker and we have no new chunks to roll. Again, we also have no tasks, and I feel like this is probably going to be the majority of the chunks that we can roll. We're just going to get through them rather quickly, maybe with the exception of the things on the western side here, but there's only one way to find out, and that is to pick another chunk and see what we get. The quarry. Alright, take me there. No current chunk tasks, which probably means that we can't actually start the quest that is here. It looks like we do get access to a lot of ores, which is scary because as soon as we get a pickaxe, we might have a big mining grind ahead of us, especially if those are clay rocks that I see. They might be sandstone, though. I'm not entirely sure, but like I said, only one way to find out. Let's get back in the game. And here we are at the edge of the mining camp. Let's unlock it. Here is the quest giver Lazim. It doesn't say that we can start the quest, but we'll try anyway, just to see if maybe the chunk picker is missing anything. It says that I can start it, but I don't think I can actually do any of the steps in the quest, so, I mean, sure, let's start it. Okay, so he's telling me to mine sandstone, but I obviously don't have a pickaxe, so that's probably why I can't do the first step of the quest, but let's see what else is around here. We have sandstone, we have granite, sandstone. Ah, there's the clay. We have clay. I believe that is a level 1 mining, thing. Yes, clay right here. Okay, so as soon as we get a pickaxe, we are probably, going to have a 90 mining requirement on the horizon, which is going to be fairly brutal, I think. So let's hope that we don't roll any areas that give us access to a pickaxe. I don't know where those areas are. Maybe I'll have to play around in the chunk picker to find out and use some of those death chunk markers that everyone else uses. Anyway, we'll just quickly run around the rest of the chunk. There's some coal here. Doesn't seem to be anything else besides clay, coal, sandstone, and granite. There are these little ruins here. Looks like there was once a building here. A very good observation game. I see more mining things to the south here, which is also concerning. There's this grinder over here. Not really useful to me right now, so let's check a little bit up north here. See how far this chunk extends. We have a dead tree, which we can't chop this one. There is a massive cliff face over here, and I think north of that, is that the bandit camp where these guys we were killing over here kind of are associated with? Well, we can stand on top of this overlook and see down into the camp here, but we can't actually access it or do much of anything else in this chunk, so you know what that means. We're going back into the chunk picker. Alright, so this chunk makes the ruins of Unak rollable. Maybe we can just barely squeeze in through this little pass here, I'm not sure. And it also makes the bandit camp rollable technically, but like I said, I don't think we can actually pass through here. I think this might just be corner content, I believe it's called. But we'll see what we get. I would really like to start moving north towards that hunting spot, but that doesn't seem to be the way we're going. This is very much corner content. We've been ping-ponging between sides of the map here. So here is the chunk, unlocked. No tasks, of course, but it does give me some nice scenery and also another Caridian cactus. And yet another Caridian cactus. Also, there was one here that I did not know about. We have some nice little island strips coming off here for some reason. And yet another Caridian cactus, which I think I probably could have reached from inside the previous chunk here, although I would not have allowed myself to do that. Anyway, that's the whole chunk. We're going back into the chunk picker. Well, we can now unlock the ancient vault potentially. Does it have anything scary for us? No shops, no item spawns. I think we're safe if we roll it for now. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. Ooh, I think that's close to where we want to be. The Elid North Bridge. Yes, that is now one chunk away from the hunter spot that we have been wanting, although it looks like there's some scary stuff up here. I don't know what that's all about. I guess we'll find out. Alright, well, here we are at the border. I guess let's see what happens. Oh, we have a ton of Caridian cacti. We have a nice little bridge here, and I see some item spawns up in the mini-map there. Some bronze arrows. Okay, I guess we have somewhat unlocked a renewable ranged ammunition method, if you can even call it that. Hello, Golden Warbler, you are so close to me. Ooh, and it looks like we have a short bow up here. Oh, that's awesome. We just unlocked ranged. What the hell? Just like that? Really? Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm assuming that gives us some sort of range tasks, probably. I was a little too eager to get into my new chunk, so I haven't actually looked at any of the tasks. And we have another item over here. And what is... Oh. Oh no. Oh dear. Oh, I'm so dead. So the idea I had was to keep rolling until we got stuck with another grind and then end the episode. And, well, we got one. And I'm not talking about the ranged grind. This episode is already full of content and progress, so I hope you will not begrudge me for leaving you in a little bit of suspense. You can always check my chunk map, or just take a little jaunt over to that chunk in game if you really want to spoil yourself. Let's talk about our glorious triumphs instead. Narda complete, ranged unlocked, and so many levels and milestones achieved. And I didn't disappear for 8 months, so that's a win in my book. In all seriousness, I really am enjoying this challenge, and I am so grateful that I decided to come back to it. The support I've received recently has been absolutely incredible. Also, this is something that I'm very rarely going to ask for, because I don't want to feel like I'm begging for likes, but my last 2 videos took a ridiculous amount of time to edit. I'm talking like an average of 7 hours per day, almost every day, over the course of several weeks after finishing my recordings for each episode. I don't know how long this video is going to take to edit, but if you enjoyed it, I would really appreciate it if you could give this video a like to help me get that feeling of number go up during the unseen and often much more grueling part of this grind. As I've said before, it's my fellow one-chunkers who inspire me to carry on with these challenges in-game, but what I haven't mentioned is that it's you guys who really motivate me to spend all of these hours doing literally nothing but moving tiny pieces of MP4 data around on a screen. So I really do hope it was worth your time. Thank you guys for making it worth mine, and with all of that said, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks again, and take care, everyone.